The next topic that we'll be speaking upon is Carl Jung. So he was a Swiss psychiatrist and a psychoanalyst and the founder of what is today known as the analytical psychology. His ideas have had a significant influence on psychiatry and psychology, of course. However, there has been a whole lot of input from this data that he has given into philosophy, religion, and even arts. Jung developed several key concepts that differentiated him from his contemporaries, especially Sigmund Freud, with whom he initially worked closely but then diverged into various theories. So, the key concept of Carl Jung's analytical psychology includes the model that we will be discussing and the personality theory that we will be talking about. Now, if you if you just slightly compare it with the topographical and the structural theory of Freud that we have read, it is different. It looks different, it seems different, and it is different as well. And we will also highlight at the end how different these theories are. Now, if you look here, we can see that this is the self. The self has been given the most amount of importance in the model of Jung. Okay, and here is the ego. Okay, between this is the consciousness. Here, what we see is the partial unconsciousness, and what we see here is the collective unconsciousness, right? So we are seeing, of course, we are seeing the consciousness that we are looking at. Okay, we are looking at collective unconsciousness and we are looking at personal unconsciousness, right? Now, apart from that, we are also looking at the ego which is there in between. We are looking at the self which is there in here. And apart from that, we can see some C and A. Now, what are these C and A? C stands for complexes here and A stands for archetypes. Okay. Now, so as you can again see, below the outer rim of the consciousness is the personal unconsciousness, which is having these complexes. These complexes are then connected to the archetypes, which in itself lies in the collective unconsciousness. Right? Okay. Now let's understand about the model. So in the model, there is a conscious mind that we saw here. There is a personal unconsciousness that we saw, right? We saw it here. Then we saw the collective unconsciousness, which we saw as blue here, okay? And then the self, right? Now, when we talk about each of it, it has various parts. And in your mind, you can keep comparing it to Sigmund Freud theory as well, because you will start noticing the difference right as when we start talking about it. So here, ego is the center of conscious awareness, okay? It's a part of the psyche that is responsible for the person's sense of identity and reality in this, okay? So what does it do? It organizes. Ego is organizing and interpreting all the inputs that's coming to it, okay? So it's doing much of the similar work along with keeping a check of reality, right? And keeping a check of identity, okay? Right. Now coming to consciousness, okay? So the consciousness here is referring to the part of the mind that is aware of the thoughts and perceptions and its feeling. Now, it operates through the ego, right? It operates through this ego and is directed towards the external reality, right? Why is that so? If you look outside, consciousness is the thing which is the most outside here, right? It is directed towards the external reality in conjunction to this ego. Clear? So that is the conscious mind. Okay. Now we'll come to the personal unconscious mind, which is, in the personal unconscious mind, we have three things. We have what is called as the repressed memories. This is almost similar to what we have read before, which is that the personal unconscious contains all the experiences, memories, feelings, perceptions that a person has either forgotten, ignored, or repressed. Right? This could include childhood memories, this could include suppressed desires, this could include the unprocessed emotions that are present. So all of that is present as a part of the personal unconsciousness, right? Then we come to secondly to the complex. Can you see the C's here? Yes. So that is the complex. When it comes to complex, there are just two things that you need to remember. Number one is the position of the complex in the Jung model, which is in the personal unconscious part. And number two, that he identified these complexes as clusters of emotionally charged ideas and memories and experiences, right? And they are stored there. They can then get linked to a particular theme, so such that one can be a mother complex, one can be a father complex, and these can then influence the behavior without even getting into the conscious part, right? This is in the personal unconscious, right? It is individualized if you look at it. Okay, so you and I will not have the same kind of complex. It is individualized. Okay, so personal unconscious has this part which is complexes, in which you can consider as charged with experiences, charged with memories, charged with feelings. Okay, and they are linked to specific themes also. Mother theme, your game theme, your father complex, right? And that can then influence the kind of behavior that the person is doing without involving the consciousness at all. Okay, so we got that. So in complexes, there are only 2 points that you should be talking about: the site of it, right? And this part, that what is it, right? Okay, important part about what is it is that it does not need to interact with consciousness to have the behavior part. Now coming to the automatic process. Automatic process are unconscious process that influence our thoughts and behaviors. It can be a small habit that we do. It can be an involuntary reaction that comes out of us. It can be an indistinct behavior that comes out of us. These are all part of personal unconscious, right? So it is personal unconscious, right? It's my unconscious or it's your unconscious. It's not collective. So clearly by that sentence means that collective unconscious is going to be not personalized and it's going to be a collectively shared by all humans. Now this concept is something which is absolutely different from what we have read in the previous videos, which is regarding the fact that each of the things were individualized, right? So here collective unconscious was a groundbreaking thing that that was suggested by Carl Jung, in the sense that unlike personal unconsciousness, which is unique to the individual, the collective unconsciousness is shared by all humans. Okay, and not only shared by all humans, it is part of the psyche that also contains archetype, universal symbols, patterns that have evolved over time in human history, right? So that is stored as a part of collective unconsciousness. Okay, and lastly we have the self. Okay, I'm saying it the lastly, but Carl Jung has actually paid a lot of attention to the self, saying that this is the central organizing principle of the psych model that he has given. It represents the totality of the individual, integrates both the conscious and the unconscious part, and also views that this is the part which will actually go for individuation, right? And the goal of that will be individuation. So it becomes very important. That being said, we need to know a little bit about archetype. Now, when we talk about archetype, what do we understand about it? Okay, please don't get intimidated by the amount of information that we have here. It's just been put up there so that you are able to recall and remember the exact words, because it can be getting quite confusing with each other. So archetypes, these are innate universal symbols and motives that shape our experience and perception of the world. Okay, they're not learned. Okay, as we saw, they are a part of the collective unconsciousness. So they are not learned, they are actually inherited. And they are those universal symbols which are inherited and form the basic structure of the collective unconsciousness. Okay. There are few key types that were described, archetypes that have been described. Okay. Let's start with the self. Okay. There's an archetype of the self. There's a symbol. You can, every time you think of an archetype, think of it as a unique tattoo symbol. Okay. So there is a symbol regarding the self. Now what will that tell? It will tell that it represents unity, it represents integration, it represents harmony of the whole psyche. Okay, it symbolizes the realization of one's fullest potential and wholeness. Right? So, this is the self archetype. Note that this is not the self. The self was a part of the bigger model. We are here now. In this also there are multiple archetypes, one of which is called self or related to self, right? So as you can see, these, because they are collective to all humans, they will be quite general. They will represent unity, integration and harmony of the whole psyche, right? So it looks like quite general but important. Shadow. So shadow represents the hidden, repressed, less visible part, right? So as you can tell by the name, it is a less visible part and it's hidden of the psyche. It encompasses the unconscious elements of the personality that are not that desirable, such as anger, there is weakness, there is jealousy. Okay, so that comes as a part of the shadow. There is also the anima, animus. Anima refers to the female and within the male psyche, whereas animus refers to the masculine aspect of the female psyche. Okay, right. So anima is the female aspect in the male psyche. Okay. Okay. Now, these archetypes also represent the unconscious opposite gender characteristics and helps us to understand how the process of individuation will occur. Right. So, because if you think about it, the individuation which we'll talk about is nothing but coming to a state where everything is in equilibrium and everything is in the state of balance. So here the feminine aspect of the male psyche and the male aspect of the feminine side gets represented as separate archetypes. Now you talk about the fourth thing, which is the persona. Okay, the social mask or the outward identity that a person represents to the world. Okay, the persona is shaped by social expectations and often hides the true self behind that. Easy to understand. Lastly, there is the hero, which represents the quest for growth and self-actualization. This embarks on the journey, faces the challenges of self-actualization, seeks transformation or self-discovery. Okay, so according to Carl Jung, all of us collectively have these kind of archetypes within us, right? And they are actually present universally and they will be a part of the collective unconscious. The easier way to remember it would be talking about the self first. Okay, when you talk about the self first, it will indicate that this is not the same self as the previous one as we discussed, right? After the self, talk about the persona, which is the outward part of the identity, right? Now after you've talked about the outward part, talked about the behind part, which is the shadow. Okay, so self, persona, which is the outward part, shadow, which is the behind part, and then the gender, which is the anima or the animus, and lastly hero.